Hi, I'm Allie, and I'm living chronic faith. Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to the podcast. The name says it all. I believe that our faith has to be as chronic as our symptoms, and this podcast is a safe space for us to explore meaningful ways to live our lives according to that faith. It's my prayer that after this episode, you will be more encouraged, more educated, and more equipped to live out your chronic faith. Hello and welcome to the Living Chronic Faith Podcast. I'm Allie, and today I am joined by an LCF member and a wonderful friend of mine, and her name is Deborah Quarles. Deborah has a travel business, and she assists people all the time with planning trips to all different kinds of locations. And I'm so excited to talk with her about how people who have chronic illnesses and disabilities can travel safely and comfortably. And so we're going to get into a conversation about that. But Deb, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
So glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate this opportunity to share.
It's such a blessing. I love how God has people in the kingdom that can speak to and assist with everything that concerns us. And so this is not just a business for you. This is a marketplace and ministry. And I would love for you to tell us just a little bit more about how you serve people as they are preparing to travel.
Okay. As a travel agent, I have many responsibilities, but I think my major responsibility is to really try to cater in to what the person needs. Okay. As a travel agent, what we try to do is we try to ask detailed questions, find out what is it that you really want to do? What is it you want to accomplish on this trip? And then we work to fulfill that, whatever that might be, because travel is changing over the years. And so ultimately, that's what I do, whether it's booking airline, hotels, resorts, condos, cruises, whatever it might be. Travel has changed so much, and it's continuing to change. And I did not realize it when I first got into it, how just how much there is to it. There is a lot to travel. And I'm just thankful to God that we have this opportunity to travel because it's something that most people want to do. I mean, there was a survey out that asked if money was not a problem, time was not a problem, what would you do more of? And 99.9% the answer was travel. And
Wow.
so I know for a fact that that's what people want to do, like to do, love to do. And so that's kind of what I'm into now. I am a retired nurse, and I still want to try to use travel to help people with their to experience the world. Because even if you have a medical condition or illness, whatever, you can still travel.
Yeah.
And there are so many medical benefits to traveling. Yeah, I mean, there is research, and I mean, documented research from medical doctors over the years that have done research that shows the medical benefits of travel. So, I've just kind of like, as Allison say, do a pivot. I did a pivot and I moved over to another area, but I'm first of all serving God and I'm serving people. So that's
I love that. And I appreciate that you brought out the point that there are benefits health-wise, physical health and mental health to traveling. And of course, as long as we're doing that safely and taking the necessary precautions, but it is good for our mental health to
it
do
is.
things that we enjoy, to do things that broaden our horizons, to do things that get us out of our normal space that we're in
Yes.
and have different experiences. And that's just on the mental health side, and so it is so appropriate that you brought that up, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. So you mentioned that a lot of things have changed in recent years. For someone who hasn't traveled in the last 5 to 10 years, like I recently just traveled for the first time in a number of years,
Yeah.
what are some changes that people should anticipate if they haven't traveled in a while?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I love this question because the travel industry has changed tremendously. And I think the number one thing that you will find out is that of the role of technology. in travel. Okay, there's nothing you can do, probably in many sectors of life, but especially with travel, that technology is not involved in. First of all, to the booking process. There are so many now mobile apps. Every airline, every hotel has an app. Okay, every cruise line has an app, and they are now expecting you to use that for many different things throughout your process, pre-travel, during your travel, and even after your travel. And so I would say that the technology is the one piece. Everything is going more to the technology and it's less personal. And that can be a hindrance for those of us that do have some medical issues because on an app you can't always get the answer you want right away. And so one of the things that you'll even find, and I'm sure you find it even trying to call your doctor's office, is that when you call, say for instance, American Airlines, okay? You're not just going to be called and get a person. Ding. No, you're not going to get a person right away. You're going to go through one, two, three, maybe four prompts before you're able to get to someone who you can talk to. And then at that point, you may have to be transferred to someone else. So just realize that that piece of the puzzle is very real. And I really don't see that changing. Even for those of us that have medical issues that need a little more attention. That's just going to be the initial process. The other thing I would say is enhanced security. Okay, when you go into this, even just mainly, let's just start with the airlines. Okay, because that's where you see most of those changes at. You will find out now the process of passports is changing. Just recently, hope everyone is aware of it, but we now have to be, everyone has to be what's called real ID, which means you have to go through a process, and it is through your BMV, your Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and that process is different from every state. So you may have to call your BMV to see what that process is, okay? But basically all it is just a process where you have already been, you've already went through the process, answered the questions, and now you meet the federal security standards, okay? And this is going to be necessary for all of your travel. Not only that, but now many states are now requiring that even if you are going into a federal building, okay?
Yes.
Some of these buildings are going to request and require that you have it, and it will show up on your driver's license as a star. If you do not have a driver's license, then if you have a federal ID. And so that will be sufficient, but it's going to be necessary. So if you haven't got that, and even if you have not had a chance to travel, don't even perceive that you're going to travel, go ahead and get that, because that will be necessary for maybe some things that you want to do just, in the area where you do live. So just kind of be aware of that. Even when you go into the airports now, due to the state of the world today, you've got to many times do fingerprinting. Many times when we go overseas, you have to do that. Everything now is facial recognition. So when you go into the TSA and you're trying to go through, you hand them your credentials, but you have to stand there and they have to make sure that your picture on your passport, that it matches, or even on your driver's license matches what they're seeing. Okay, there's been times when I've had to take my glasses off because it didn't match. So kind of be aware of that. Also know that there's going to be drug sniffing dogs. Okay, I mean, many airports use them now, and that's a real thing, and you'll see that a lot. So be aware of that. I'm trying to think what are some of the other things. One of the major things that I like to make sure people are aware of is that when you are packing the items that you need, okay, let's start with medications. Make sure your medications, if you are going through, there's a difference between your luggage that you check and your carry-on. Your luggage that you check, okay, your medications can be in, I have a pill bottle for the whole week. So I put my medicines in there, okay? If you don't need that medicine, then they can stay in your medicine box, in your check-in, Okay, the difference here, you have to be very careful with the carry on. Okay, any medication that's going to be in your carry on bag has to be in its original bottles. Okay,
Mm,
that is necessary, okay, because that will hold you up and you may not get in, simply because they would have to take you off and run you through another scanner and identify every pill,
wow.
okay, which is very difficult, okay. Also, know that any lotions and hair stuff cannot be in this big bottle, okay, has to be in a 2 ounce container, okay. If not, you're throwing all your stuff away because they will not let you take it through, okay. They got a big trash can there and they're ready to throw it away for you. Let me tell you. So just kind of be aware of that. Those are standard all across the United States and even in many foreign countries. And a lot of times you got to be aware of that when you are going out of the country, that there may be some different standards, especially with your medications. Kind of be aware, because if you're on anything that's like a narcotic, like I was at one time on gabapentin for sciatic pain, okay? That was a medicine that when I go to pick it up from the pharmacy, I would have to show my driver's license, okay? In some countries, some medicines, you will not be able to take those medicines over there.
Wow.
It's a tight one. Yeah, yeah. I know they're working on some standards to try to get some of those released. And all of this, you have to understand, is due to the drug problem that we have. Because a lot of these medications that has this requirement on it are narcotics, okay? And there's many of us with chronic illnesses that we have to take
Right.
narcotics, okay? But they're in a different classification. And so they just go by different rules. So just be mindful of that, okay? And that's another thing that we have to be aware of. The other thing is, since COVID, the enhanced COVID protocols. Many of those in the airports are still active, okay? Many times it's not said as much, but the thing you have to remember is that when you're walking, the floors are still identified as to where you should stand. Now, people don't always abide by that, but it's still there. Sanitation stations are still there. They don't require the mask, but you can wear the mask. That's your choice to wear the mask. So I ask everyone to adhere when you're in close quarters with someone to abide by all of those standards. They are still good and they work today. And we have to, one thing that I say is to know yourself and protect yourself. Okay? So you got to know what's comfortable for you and what's not, and kind of be aware of that. So that's another thing. And of course, cost is going up everywhere. And then the other thing that's very different is you'll see a lot of, and I really noticed this when I was on the cruise a couple of months ago, is that they're really big into what's called sustainability. And sustainability is that part that many of us, and I was not even aware of it, but they're trying to make everything environmentally friendly. Okay, so sustainable that we can continue, and it's amazing how different materials are made. The ships are being made differently. How they dispose of the waste and the trash on the cruises is totally different. So just kind of be aware of those kind of things. That those are some of the, I think, the main things that will kind of, that you will have to be aware of, and that may be some terms and terminologies that you're not aware of. So just kind of watch out for those. But yeah, as long as you, and I think, I've heard for years, knowledge is power. So as you learn,
Yes.
you can abide by it, and it's going to work for your good. Okay. All right.
Those are so many good points. Many of them I recognized from
Mm-hmm.
my trip.
Yeah.
I want to start kind of where you ended and work backwards
Mm-hmm.
with regard to some of the protocols that were introduced during COVID. And I want to just echo what you said, that wearing the mask and using the sanitizer and,
Mm-hmm.
wearing gloves if necessary, all of those things are still your choice. And you can still choose to do that. I wore a mask in the airport and on the plane, especially on an airplane when you've got air that's being recycled,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're in a enclosed area, and that air is being processed and filtered and recycled back, but you're also in closer proximity to people for a longer time than you might typically be. And so just keeping that in mind, that that is still your option. I saw several other people there
Mm-hmm.
wearing masks. I saw
Mm-hmm.
several employees wearing
Yeah.
masks.
Oh, yes.
So please do not feel like you're going to be out of place or that you're going to be the only one. You also mentioned the facial recognition, which was new to me. It was very new to me. But it is definitely something that can kind of catch you off guard. Additionally, another
Mm-hmm.
one of the security protocols, when you're sending your items through the checkpoint, and having to, take off your shoes, having to walk through the little corridor that scans you,
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind,
Mm-hmm.
if that's something that you can navigate or maneuver through comfortably, that's fine. If you can't, or if you're needing wheelchair assistance, there are ways that you can stay in the chair and they can wand you down or all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But just be willing to communicate with them what your need is. I highly advocate for not pushing yourself past the point of your capacity
Yes.
when there are other ways to get the same thing accomplished, right?
Mhm. That's right.
You talked
That's
about liquids
mhm.
and lotions. I would also add gels. So if you're doing things like sea moss, or if you're taking, any kind of
Yeah.
thing like that, keep
Mhm.
that in mind that they're
Mhm.
limited, I think, to 2 or 3 ounces. There are, if you're purchasing like containers, there are containers that say TSA certified, so
Yeah.
that you know that it's something that is legitimate that can get through
Mhm.
security.
Yes.
And then you mentioned your medications being packed in your checked luggage.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a great concept. I also would say, if it's something that is crucial and critical, and you're afraid that if your luggage gets lost, that you'll get separated from your medication,
Yeah.
then the remedy for that is to use the original prescription bottles that have
Yeah.
the label
With the
on it,
original.
right? That
Mhm.
identify this as being your medication. And I think that that will be a way to make sure that you're not separated from the medications that you need on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So many things that you shared. Oh, I did want to go back also
Mhm.
to the technology piece,
Yes.
because
Okay.
that can be very, very helpful for people who might need a little more time to process information and work through all the steps. That can be helpful, that you can do it on your own.
Mm.
But there still are customer service phone numbers that you can call if you're needing additional assistance.
Right. There are. Mhm.
And all of those things that you're looking for can be found on the website. For example, if you're needing wheelchair assistance, or if you're needing additional help on the flight, there are
Mhm.
places that you can put a check mark of what you need. And in my experience, they will contact you and ask for specifics if they need them. They'll
Mhm.
follow up with you if there's additional information that they need. But these are things that, if you're just going on a trip for the first time in a long time,
Mhm.
you may not be aware of. And that's one of the benefits of having a travel agent, right? What are
Right.
some of the other benefits of booking travel through an agent versus doing it yourself?
I think first of all would be um, the time factor. Whereas you got someone else that's helping you to do this. All you have to do is tell them what your needs are. They'll get the booking for you. But it takes that stress away. It brings that convenience in there. And like I said, if you're not aware of the process, your agent should be able to help you through that process and let you be aware of, okay, because of this, I'm going to call this person. Because of
Mm-hmm.
this, I'll be doing this. And so I think that is one of the number one thing, is that it takes away all of that. You also get a chance to get in on their expertise. Okay. And because they're in this field, they have dealt with the airlines. They've dealt with a variety of hotels and resorts, condos and cruises, all this stuff. They've dealt with many of those, so they do know a little of some of the, how should I say it, the what I call the norm across each board, because there are some norms in the airline business, some in the hotel business, as to how they operate. Many of their operating procedures are pretty much the same in that essence. So you can get in on all of that. Also, to handle any situations that may come up, any unexpected things, they should be able to jump in there and be that go-between, to be able to make some of those calls for you, to be able to get some of those answers for you. A lot of times, what I do for many of my customers is, especially if I'm doing some international travel, I make sure that there's no warnings out for that country, okay? Because I want it to be safe, okay? So I go and I check. Hey, what are some of the warnings out right now? Is there
Yeah.
looting and violence going on over there? This may not be the time to go. With cruises, I let people know when, okay, you're booking now, but this is hurricane season. Okay, I'll make you aware of it.
Okay.
So you'll know that there may be an increased chance of rain and winds. Okay, things of that nature. I think that's the one of the biggest things. And I think travel agent, what I try to do is help people see the big picture. Okay, and to look at facets, because one of the areas of travel that is changing is that people are not just going somewhere to sightsee, they are going on trips for experiences. So they're going to experience a certain culture, a certain area. And I think that I'm seeing a lot more of that, is that people are wanting some type of an experience, with their
Yeah.
family, with close friends and stuff like that. So as a travel agent, I'm able to let you know, well, there are some things over here just, you know, um, you know, not far away, that might be another good experience that you might want to do while you're there. Because sometimes these big trips, people say, well, this is my one and done. I'm getting over there. I'm going to enjoy it while I can. So I try to share with them some of the other attractions that may be over there, so that they can be aware of it. But yeah, I think there's still a necessity for travel agents today, even though most people, and I think I think the stats say it's about 46, 47% still use travel agents.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
because people are going on not just to go sightseeing, but they're going on tours. They're doing more of a tour, and things are kind of changing in every area. Cruises have what they call land cruises. Okay, so you go and you'll board a cruise at a certain destination. You'll cruise for a couple days, and you get off, and then you're on land, and you're touring on land. They have those specifically in Alaska. Alaska is one of the areas where they do the cruise tours. And that's because there's just so much to see over there. And you can't see it all from the cruise ship. You
Yes.
really need to get out, and you really need to just be on land and take a bus through some of those areas. So many of the companies now are now offering that. Another thing that's coming back is bus tours. Bus tours are coming back. I mean, I work with a company now that does trips to all different areas. If you, if you want to go to Washington D.C. and sightsee, if you want to go, I just got one on Maine. And I
Oh,
thought,
wow.
I never thought about going to Maine, but just looking at the brochure, all the pretty colors and the pictures and stuff, it's like, okay, there's something here. I got one from Michigan to Mackinac Island, going up there. But that's something that is coming back, and this company they got them all over the U.S. I want to take the one to Niagara Falls, and then they have one to the Grand Canyon. So those are my two right there.
Places
But I
that
want
a
to
lot of people want to see.
yeah.
And that's amazing. I think there is so much value in having a resource that can give you information, that because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, that's so
And
true.
so a lot of the things that you've shared are questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask,
Hmm.
or information I wouldn't have thought that I needed.
Yeah.
Like when you were talking about some of the prescription drugs that are not allowed in certain places,
Hmm.
that I think is a reason to also, and I'm always going to advocate for this. Before you plan a trip anywhere,
Hmm.
please contact your doctor.
Yeah.
Talk through your plans. Talk through how you're going to make sure you stay on your regimens. Talk about what happens if you lose your medication or if it gets stolen or if your luggage gets lost.
Hmm.
What's available to you? What are your options? Make sure that you know what your insurance covers when you're not at home.
Yes.
And make sure that you talk through those things and think about
Hmm.
how you're going to continue to manage your health care when
Oh,
you're
yeah,
in a
that.
different place, because it's one thing when you have your prescriptions on automatic refill and they get delivered to your house on the 9th of every month, and
Hmm.
that's happening, versus when you're halfway across the country or halfway
Yeah.
across the world, and you need that. And we know how challenging it can be, if you lose your medication and have to get it replaced.
Yeah,
That's a headache.
it
But
is.
having an idea of where there's a pharmacy close to where you're going to be staying,
Hmm.
or where you can get your prescription transferred or something like that.
Hmm.
Anything that might come up in an emergency, it's good to talk through that with your doctor. It's good to talk through that if you have a travel agent. It's good to talk through that with someone that who has traveled with a disability or chronic illness. So please do not try to just do this on your own
Hmm.
without reaching out to your resources. And we are going to make sure that Deb's information is in the show notes and in the description so that you can contact her if you're thinking about taking a trip. Another thing that you mentioned earlier was the Real ID,
Hmm.
and that is not new in terms of its availability, but it's new in terms of the requirement to have it.
Yes.
And so, one thing that I want to make mention of is there are several documents that you will need to have with you when you go to your BMV, that identify you.
You do.
And my recommendation is if they
Hmm.
say they need two or three and you have access to four or five,
Take.
take as many as you can, because sometimes they will have a reason that they say, oh, I can't accept
Hmm.
this. So
Yeah.
make sure that you have some alternatives. Make sure that you're clear on what they're really asking for. If you have changed your name recently for whatever
Hmm.
reason, like if, for example, you've gotten married or you've gotten divorced or whatever have you, make sure that you have documentation that shows those changes
Hmm.
in the legal system, so that they can go ahead and fully accept that. If, for example, you have had, I saw this recently, that someone had a child
Hmm.
who had um, they had their last name, um, but the person also had their maiden name on
Okay.
their ID,
Yeah, that can be.
but the child had their married name. And because they didn't match, they could not then provide the information for the child without additional documentation. And so there's a lot of,
Hmm.
things that you have to make sure that you have. Please speak with someone trustworthy. Please look it up. Contact your BMV before you go so that you're not having to make multiple trips back and forth trying to get that accomplished.
Yeah. And I just
So
had
much good information. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just wanted to add one quick thing here regarding the doctor. A lot of people don't think about that, but you may need to get medical clearance to go. Some people have not thought about that. And the other piece is with your medications, make sure you have enough for that whole trip. Okay.
Yes.
I went on a cruise with my cousin. Day before, she realized she ain't got all her enough blood pressure medicine. I was like, okay, here we go, stress city. So a couple of weeks before, look and see how much you have in your containers, and make sure you have enough for the whole
Hmm.
length of the time you're going to be back, be gone, and even I would say about a week after you come back. Okay,
Hmm.
because if not, then just go ahead and order some so that you'll have plenty, so that you don't run into
Yes.
that stress. Because a lot of things we can prevent just by a little planning, just being a little organized. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so good. And I would even add to that, you might take a couple of more days worth of medication with you just in
Definitely.
case there is some sort of delay. Flights are getting delayed a lot now. And
Mm-hmm.
so if your flight happens to get delayed over a length of time, or if weather prevents you from being able to travel back when you expect it,
Right.
it would be good to have a couple of extra days worth of your medication to tide
Mm-hmm.
you over until you get back home. That's a great point, and I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can be
So,
aware of
so
that.
many things to think about. Um, and in reference to inviting your doctor into the conversation, you may think that you are not able to travel because of certain treatments that you need. For example, people who might need dialysis treatments, there are
Mhm.
services that provide that for travelers.
Mhm.
And that's a conversation to have with your doctor. And if you happen to have a travel agent, that's a conversation to have with them as well, because those resources are available. And I want to talk about that because even on cruise ships,
Mhm.
there are accommodations. Even on
Okay.
airplanes, there are special accommodations. Can you talk about some of those accommodations that are available for people with disabilities
Yeah. I
on
think
different modes of travel?
right, right. I think across the board, number one that you'll see is that there are accommodations for mobility issues. Okay. So people that will need wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, whatever it might be. There are companies that service the airlines, that service, the cruises, even the buses. I have been doing some research on some buses and recently found out because I thought, what accommodations do the buses make? But I found out that Greyhound buses, um, I guess they've, of course, had to update their buses, but every bus has where if you cannot get out of your wheelchair, that it can lift you up and they can accommodate two people per bus. Okay. So that was kind of new to me because I was not aware of that. So, and this just brings up now, I'm going to ask questions to the company that I use to do all these tour groups on. How are their buses structured? Do they have the lift? I know most of them can accommodate you if you on a wheelchair and you're able to stand and can go up the stairs and take a seat there in the front part of the bus. But what about if you're not able to get out of that? I do know that I use a company called Rocky Mountaineer, which is a train company, and they have certain cabins, car cabins, that is specific for the handicap and for wheelchairs. Okay, so those mobility items are available wherever you go. And also in many buildings, events, and stuff like that. So if you were to go down to your convention center, okay, there was a big something down there. The
Yeah.
convention center will have something. I know the state fair has them. Different other events will have where you can rent the wheelchairs and the scooters are big now. So
Yeah.
that's many times what you'll see. Also, for the blind and for the deaf, there's also so many different resources for
Yes.
people that have those. I work part time here in Indy at a place called Gamebridge, which is where the Pacers play and the Fever play at. Okay, we have to go through training for the deaf. There's a company called Culture City. There's an app that you can put on your phone, and whatever's going on, that app can somehow record the words that and help you to be able to read it on your phone. Okay. We have a sensory room for autism. Okay. We have sensory bags, so you can take these bags out, and the child or whoever can hold these items that can help to comfort them. So there's so much that is there, and I think when you look at that's why I said you have to know you. What are some of your needs? Okay,
Yes.
and kind of be mindful of do loud noises kind of get to you. Sometimes it can just kind of rattle you just for a second or two. Especially when you're at some of these events, and of course, I mean the sound is quite deafening at times. So you have to know what you can tolerate, what you cannot tolerate. And it's okay to say that. I think the main thing is because if you go anywhere, we want you to enjoy it.
That's right.
And you cannot enjoy it if you can't appease everybody. You can't do that. No, no, if you go somewhere, they're there to serve you because you are a paying customer. And that's what you need to understand is that you're a paying customer just like anyone else. And
That's right.
so you should be able to enjoy the event that you are there to see and know that the resources are there for most things. And there's probably some things that I'm not even yet aware of. Over the last year, I've just become aware of so many different areas and things that Of course, I've known Braille is, they have Braille on the walls and everything. But now there's so many, like I said, technology, mobile apps, that can interpret the words and the sounds that's said and bring it across on your phone. And you can sit there and maybe you can't hear it, but you can feel the repercussions of the sound waves, but then you can also now see the words, so that
Yes.
helps you to come in and to enjoy the event that you are there for. So,
That's
um,
such an important point.
mhm,
And what I hear you saying is just because you may have a disability or a chronic illness
mhm,
does not mean that you don't get to enjoy the things that you
mhm.
like. You
No,
should be
no,
able
you
to
should
go
do.
and do the
Yeah.
things that you want to do.
Hmm.
And there are resources, there are accessibility practices in place to
Yes.
make sure that you have access to those things if you want to. And so, to your point, it is very helpful to check the website out or to call ahead and to find out if I need X, where do I go?
Hmm.
If I need this, who do I contact?
Hmm.
Can I set this up in advance? Things go so much more smoothly when they're
Yes.
anticipating you, right? When they
Definitely.
know
When they
that you're
know.
going to be there.
Hmm.
That's for when you're going to be in an airport needing wheelchair assistance.
Hmm.
They will be waiting for you at the door. They'll be waiting for you at the gate. They
Yeah.
will have it prepared, and you won't even have to go through the drama of trying to hunt somebody down to help you.
Right. Hmm.
Same thing when you go to these venues. And I would even add, if you're going to a new restaurant,
Yeah.
there is absolutely no harm in asking them, what
None.
type of chairs do you have?
Hmm.
Where is your disability parking located? Are there steps to get into your building? Is there a ramp? And where is it in
Hmm.
relation to the parking lot? A lot of times, what I like to do is go
Hmm.
on Google Earth
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
put the
That's a good
address
one.
in so I can look and get the lay of the land.
Hmm.
And I've found sometimes that there are gravel parking lots or, that there's steps
Mm.
into the building. And these are things that I've had to ask questions about. If they're describe the chair as like, oh, it's a hard wooden chair. Okay, that's not going to agree with my body for very long. Maybe I want to take a
Right.
cushion with me.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I understand sometimes that there's a hesitation of, okay, I'm going to stand out. People are going to notice that there's something different about what I'm doing and how I'm navigating the world.
Hmm.
We're going to be different anyway.
That's right.
We might as well be
Mhm.
comfortable while we're doing it.
Come
We
on.
might as well, like Deb said, we might as well
Hmm.
enjoy the experience. If we're going to go,
Hmm.
let's enjoy the experience. Yeah, it might take an extra step for us to get those accommodations, but what doesn't take an extra step in our lives, right? You're worth that extra
Hmm.
step. You're worth what it takes to get to the place where you can enjoy this thing that you're going to do.
Hmm.
And I also appreciate that you mentioned venues that have motorized scooters and different
Yeah.
accessibility devices and assistive devices.
Hmm.
I would also say that there are companies that will rent those things to you.
They will.
So,
Hmm.
for someone who is able to walk short distances, but longer distances are hard,
Yeah.
if you're needing an accessibility scooter, that's those can get very expensive to purchase one.
Hmm.
But if you just need it for a couple of days, there are companies that have vendors in every state
Every state.
that can deliver it to the venue you're going to be at, to the hotel you're going to be at, wherever you need it. They
Hmm.
can make that available to you. And so it's worthwhile to do a little research and
Hmm.
a little extra effort beforehand to make sure that you are safe and comfortable wherever you are traveling to.
And can I add to that too? The
Please.
one point I'd like to make is that in your research, always start with wherever you're going. So if it's, say for instance, if it's Carnival Cruise Line, just go to there, just put carnival.com, okay, and put in the search. Or most times they already have a listing, but look for anything that says ADA or accessibility, okay.
Hmm.
Those are the
That's good.
keywords that you want to look for. So make sure, and then you click on there, and they'll give you, and it'll just spill out the whole list of everything that they have under that tab. So, and then get your information from there. And then I would call and ask a little more specifically on what your specific needs would be. So I think that would be the next key point, to make your that process a lot easier. So you, because sometimes you just don't know where to go, you know.
Yes.
And same way with the airlines. You just go on the airline site, you look up accessibility or ADA, either one, and it will bring up that information for you. And
So good.
it's amazing what all the airlines do. You know,
Yes.
it's amazing. It is.
And even hotels. Hotels
Yes.
have accessible rooms, right?
They do. Oh yeah, accessible rooms, showers, everything. They make it so much easier.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a wheelchair. You know, so many things you can just pull right up to the sink. You can get right into the shower. It's so much easier. And so I hope if you get nothing from this conversation that you'll get that you can travel. You can
Yes.
do it safely and you can do it enjoyably. Because that's what God has given us, this great earth for us to experience. And that's one of my heart's desires, is for us to experience all the good things that God has given us, and to experience it with our family and our friends. And just because you have a medical condition that does put some limitations on you, does not mean that you should not be able to enjoy all that God has given.
Amen.
Because God just don't give to some and not to others. He gives to everyone. And so, but we have to take up, and we have to know that we can go, and not let our minds and our thoughts say, well, no, you can't. No, no, no. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So I pray that that gets instilled in your spirit as we talk about this, that you will find some encouragement and some strength to just start looking into it. Just say, well, you ain't got nothing planned, but just start looking. Just start asking questions. You'll find. Even just start talking to people about the subject of travel.
Yes.
And that's where you'll learn a lot. Yeah, you'll learn a lot. So, okay,
That's good.
just want to encourage you to know
That's so
that
good.
yes, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this conversation, but I did want to ask you to share with us a few things that every traveler should have with them when they travel.
Okay. Well, let's see. First of all, you got to have all your documents. So your passport, your driver's license, those are number one. The other thing I want to touch on is that you really should have, don't leave home without your insurance card, your health insurance card. Make sure you have that with you. And if all the basics, if you wear a medical alert bracelet, make sure that's on you. The same thing we've kind of said, some of your medications, make sure you have all your medications, and even all of your supplies that you would need. So if you have an ostomy, or like with me, I have sleep apnea, so I have to take my sleep apnea machine, okay? So that has to go with me. Just make sure, and then also make sure you have with my CPAP machine. When I was over in Egypt, I had to have a special adapter, because their plugs are not the same as ours here, and so
That's good.
then you have to make sure you have the correct adapter to that. You don't want to leave home without your phone or with some way to keep it charged. So I think those are crucial. The other thing I would tell people: comfortable shoes. Okay. Let's just get some comfortable shoes, because even though you may be in a wheelchair or what have you, getting up, moving around, just what little bit you may have to do, you still want to be comfortable with that. Okay, so those are some of the things that I kind of think that we need to be aware of. I always travel with a reusable or a water bottle. I have to stay hydrated. I don't know about many of you, but I really don't travel without, or either you can just buy water, but it's so much cheaper just to have your little water bottle. I have a backpack, so it slips on the side of my backpack. And once I get through TSA, there's water fountains. I fill it up and I keep myself hydrated. And that is and I am a nurse also, so Health wise, staying hydrated is a
It's
key
important.
point of health. Okay, it will help with so much. And the other thing, I tell people to take I'm calling it a first aid kit, but it's not like for your regular, it's not for band-aids and all that kind of stuff. Your first aid kit is the items that you need that are not your prescription medicines. Like with me, I have headaches quite a bit, migraines. So then I always take Tylenol or Advil or something of that nature. Many of the trips that I go on, I'm still able to walk around. So I don't leave home without Bengay or something for my muscles. Sorry to say that, but
That's
I
good.
think those are things that we need to be mindful of. Okay,
Excellent.
yeah. And the other thing we hadn't touched on, like service animals. Um, that's something else
Yeah.
that we got to be mindful of. If you do have a service animal, you really got to make sure you have the right documentation for that
Yes.
animal, because whether it's the airlines, the hotels, whatever it is, there's comfort animals, then there's service animals, and
Right.
though you have to realize that service animals, the ones that have went through the training and they are certified and qualified, okay, to take care of medical issues,
Right.
okay, not just to bring comfort or psychological comfort to people. So they look at those differently. So make sure that you have the necessary documentation for that. Um, I think those are some of the main things that I would say, that you need to have with you. Okay?
That's a very, very good point. I'm glad that you brought that out. And also, I want to go back to what you said about comfortable shoes. When you're traveling,
Yeah,
I think it's incredibly important to dress comfortably,
it is.
especially because with delays and things, you may not realize how long you might be traveling that day.
Yeah.
And so, wearing something that is super comfortable for you, whether that's loose fitting or
Mhm.
whether that's something that provides compression for you, whatever is most comfortable, try to make sure that you are wearing something that makes you feel good, especially because you're going to have to be sitting for
Mhm.
quite a while.
Yeah.
And if you have like neck pillows that you use, or if
Definitely.
you know
Yeah.
that you're prone to get cold in certain environments, take
Mhm.
a sweater, take the
Yes.
pillow, take the things. If you need something to sit on or whatever have you,
Mhm.
and utilize the things that are available to you on the plane. A lot of planes have pillows and blankets. If you need that to cushion you,
Mhm.
ask for what you need.
Yeah.
If you have like lumbar pain in your lower back and you want to take off your hoodie and roll it up and put it behind you to give you that support, do that. Make sure that you're doing the things that help you to be more comfortable so that once you do arrive at your destination, you're not wiped out. You're not in as much pain and you can't enjoy your trip,
That's it.
right? That's the big part.
Mhm.
Another thing that I advocate for too is recovery days.
Yeah.
So if you are traveling somewhere and you have the ability to have a day where you can rest or several hours where you can rest before you start doing the activity you went to do,
Mhm.
I highly recommend that you take some time to rest after you have traveled. And then again, when you return home, try to make sure, and I heard you earlier say, have enough medication for that week after you get back so that you're not having to run directly to the pharmacy to re-up on your meds because that trip might take it out of you. It might make you tired
Mhm.
and you'll need some time to recover for that. So as much as you possibly can, build in some time after travel days to rest and recuperate and get your energy back up.
Amen. That's good. That-
Yeah.
That's
Well,
good.
Deb, this has been super informative, very helpful, and most importantly, very encouraging.
Good. That's what I want.
I think that you have
Yes.
done an amazing job expressing that travel is possible
It is.
for
It
people who
really
have
is.
disabilities and chronic illnesses,
Mhm.
and that there are accessibility practices and accommodations in place for
Yeah.
people. And
Mhm.
so I just want to encourage everyone to reach out, to ask the questions, to do the research,
Yeah.
and to find out those things that can help you. And you might be surprised at what you find is available to help make sure that your trip is as comfortable and safe as possible. Any last things, Deb, that you want to share before we wrap up?
I think the major thing is just like I said, know yourself and protect yourself.
That's
Okay,
good.
because when you know yourself, you'll be able to ask better questions. That's going to
Hmm.
be tailored to you. That will get you straight to the answer because sometimes answers are just not clear and cut. Like me, I have to know certain things. I made some changes on this cruise that really wasn't for health reasons, but was for other reasons, just with because I know how things are done.
Hmm.
With the dinner service, one of the things that I did, I know the dinner service was from 5:30 to 9. The majority of the people really want to go between like 7:30 and 8:30 or 7:30 and 9. So I stayed
Hmm.
out of that. When I did my booking, I always booked very early. Okay. There was no time that I had to do late, but I went early and when I went, I booked early. I got there early, got in line so that I could be one of the first people seated so that number one, I wasn't around the full crowd as they were still coming in. Had already ordered, was able to take my time and eat, and that's what I did for the dinner service. Okay, was I booked early because I didn't want to be here, and mainly the crowd. And this is kind of crazy, but I'm a single person, and there's all these couples there because the cruise I was on was an all adult cruise line. So I didn't
Hmm.
want to be all, sitting eating dinner over here by myself and all these couples there, goo and gaga and at each other. So I knew myself. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I made that change and it was fun. And many times I got there, I saw someone else who I'd seen on the cruise, some other ladies, and we sat together. So it was really no big deal. But I think that's a key point. And then to protect yourself is make sure you do not hesitate. Don't feel bad about using all the COVID precautions. They're there for a reason, and they're there for you. And we want you not to just be able to take one trip and then come home and be sick, but we want you to be able to
Right.
take a trip after trip, and your confidence will build once you go and you first of
It's
all
very true.
see what's all out there. Okay, one thing that I saw on the cruise is how hard they work to keep that ship clean. Okay, because they know that that's their lifeline, that's their money. Okay, if people are not booking the cruise or the airlines, then so goes their business, and that's what they want. And whatever they have to do to make you comfortable, that's what they're going to do. Okay, and so I want you to be encouraged that you can do that. You can do it. So I want you to start dreaming again. If you've stopped dreaming, start dreaming. Okay, start believing God. Start even just start. I don't know. Just start thinking crazy. I don't care. Allison probably knew she should have had me on. I was gonna say something crazy, but I want. I trust God. Okay, I want you
Yeah.
to trust God. Start your planning and go enjoy yourself. God bless you.
So, so good.
Hmm.
Debbie, thank you so much for
Hmm.
being with us.
Amen. Thank you for having
Everything that you shared has been spot on. You mentioned some of the food concerns. If you have allergies, talk about
me.
those with the server. Talk about those with whoever you're coordinating your trip with.
Hmm.
Don't be, and like she said, know yourself.
Hmm.
What are those things that you need? And make sure that you're speaking up, advocating for yourself, and asking for what you need.
Hmm.
And if you find that any of those things cannot be accommodated, then that is a good indication that that may not be the trip for you, but it doesn't mean that no trip will work for you.
That's right.
So please
Hmm.
just, like she said, dream big.
Yeah.
If traveling is something that's on your heart or something that you want to do,
Hmm.
please know that you can absolutely do it. You can do it safely, you can do it comfortably, and you can do it enjoyably. And so
Amen.
thank you so much, Deb, for being with us. Like I said, her contact information will be in the show notes in the description below. So make sure that you reach out to her if you have questions or if you're interested in booking a trip. This is not a promo. She didn't ask me to say that, but I just think that it is so important to have a like-minded believer who is concerned
Amen.
about your well-being
Hmm.
to speak into your life as you are planning any kind of travel. So thank you again for being with us.
Amen.
And thanks everyone for joining us for this episode of the Living Chronic Faith Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening in the LCF community, or for more faith-first chronic diagnosis content, please visit our website at livingchronicfaith.com. And while you're there, consider registering for membership free of charge. Also, check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Living Chronic Faith. Be sure to follow and subscribe. Remember that I'm praying for you. Yes, you. And until next time, always expect great things. Talk to you soon.